Hello everyone, SirMonkeySuit Zappy here, back again with Yowamushi Pedal. We are on episode 13, and in the last episode we started off a training camp for Inter High, which they are currently at a cycling sports centre, which is located in Izu, which I actually heard was actually a real place, and the cycling centre is actually there as well, so that's really cool. So their whole plan is to travel, or essentially ride 1,000 kilometers in 4 days, which that is tough. And not only do they have to do that, but they also have taken off certain things from Naruko's, Imaizumi's, and Onoda's bikes to sort of hinder them, so that they don't rely on them too much, and to make it just that a little bit extra, make it that much harder. So yeah, I think Naruko got his sort of the under sort of handlebar things. He got those taken off. Imaizumi got his gear shifters taken off, and then Onoda had his back wheel changed to like a heavier and much older one as well. So yeah, Onoda is struggling, but he still has done more than what Kinjo thought that he would have. So he's actually still sort of, he's not on schedule, but he's still ahead in Kinjo's estimates. So that's all good. And yeah, someone else said as well that Sugimoto, even though apparently he had finished before Imaizumi and Naruko, hasn't actually had anything taken off his bike. So that's all right. Good. All right. So I don't think there's anything else to really talk about. We're just going to get in episode 13 and continue this training camp. So without further ado, let's go. Okay, episode 13. Right, so we're continuing on, obviously, with the sports sort of training camp thing. And even though, Kinjo, obviously, he said at the end of the last episode that he was surprised at how far Onoda actually did manage to get, and then also, Makishima was surprised as well, that yet he still wants them and expects them to hit that 1,000 kilometers in 4 days regardless, because if they don't hit it, they're not going to Inter High, so they have to hit it. So yeah, they also had when they were lining up as well, Kinjo basically saying that he's going to finish his with he's going to finish the whole thing a day ahead of everyone else. So I don't know if that is entirely true or not. I mean, possibly. I mean, from just based upon, because we didn't get to see the scores of where everyone was at after the second day, but after the first one, I'd imagine Todokoro, if he kept that up, he'd be able to do it. And yeah, but the other ones, Kinjo and Makishima, they did sort of stay back and sort of, for a lot of it, were not necessarily going for it like the underclassmen were, but more just like sort of looking on and seeing how they were getting on. So I guess they haven't really fully, gotten themselves into it yet. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see where Onoda is at this point, because I want to see if he's made up any time. I imagine he has made up time, because I don't know how far they got into it in the first day until he realized that he can shift these gears will allow him to get sort of like more cadence, but there's obviously going to be less power behind it, so he's not going to be able to go as fast. But by just having that little sort of by Makishima giving him that sort of tip, he's able to sort of focus his ride better. So I imagine he's probably he's done better than what he did in day one anyway, but we don't have an actual number where he's at now, so I can't say it. But yeah, Imaizumi and Naruko refusing to take any breaks there or any intervals and stuff, and I knew it would affect someone at some point. When it happened, I was actually surprised that Imaizumi was the one to fall. It wasn't a case of, I mean, here's the thing. I imagine this is only... it's tough to really say. I'm not really sure I want a Naruko and Imaizumi sort of rivalry the whole time. You know what I mean? I kind of because I feel like it's kind of, as of right now, I'll be perfectly frank, I feel like it's taken away from their characters a bit, because they're put in this bubble where they're just both the same. You know, they're too similar, and they're always clashing with each other. When in reality, I don't think they need to. You know, I don't think they have to. I hope this is only for like this period of the show, because it's like they are still they've only known each other a short while, you know what I mean, and they're still like their actual opponents haven't come in the form of other schools yet. It's just like essentially they are battling against each other in a way. So I can get why it's still happening now. I just like that. I'd like them to have their own. I'd like to have them like a bit more like sort of separate in a way, but I guess they're only sort of determining like their skill level. So I guess you can't let one get ahead of the other, because what I'm trying to say is I don't want them to be just a tool for Onoda. That's what I want, because I feel like at the moment Onoda is, if we're looking at it through his eyes, he sees them both, he holds them both up on a pedestal. It's like, I want to ride with those guys, I want to ride with them, you know. So he holds them in high esteem. So you can't have one over the other. They both taught him like different things, but he holds them both in the same sort of, in the same regard, and therefore because of that the characters themselves are being held in like they're being held like in this partnership of continuously like battling one another, saying the same things, you know what I mean. But I feel like when you do that, you can kind of detract away from characters sort of being themselves, and I think that was something that I think Haikyuu did masterfully. So you know what I mean, Haikyuu got the characters down perfectly. So I think, I'm hoping that this is something that becomes less, like we get less of those two being like, you know, like so similar, you know what I mean, because I feel like it pays in sports anime to have the characters be the best thing about the show, you know, because story isn't exactly a prime like it isn't exactly a priority in sports anime, I don't think, because it is literally like and this isn't like me saying that like sports anime are bad for story, because I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that when it comes to sports, because it is focused around one thing, it tends to it can only go a few certain branches, you know, like it can either go like you either win or you lose, you know what I mean, and that's generally what it is. And then you have like the bit in between where it's like, oh, you almost got there, you know what I mean? But there's not as many branches, I feel like, with story revolving around sports anime than others. So I feel like the strength should come from having your characters move the story along. And if you have very interesting characters, then that's what makes a very good sort of sports anime in a way. And that's the way I kind of feel about it. So I want them to be sort of apart. But this is just to let you know, it's just a minor sort of nitpick, you know what I mean, because I do want to give like my thoughts on it as of right now. And it kind of, the only reason why I'm talking about it is because what I wanted to sort of happen is in this sort of, because it ended up this way when Imaizumi dropped his water bottle, right, and he got off and he fell down because obviously he was working, you know, too hard, that I wanted Naruto to just continue on. Now I get that it's this whole thing of like just being a kind of a good dude and being helpful, but by having Naruto by having Naruto sort of go ahead anyway and allowing him to do that, it kind of, I think it just sets like this sort of precedent for somewhat like for just separating them in some interesting way. I think it would have probably been interesting if it was the other way around, and maybe if Imaizumi would have kept going or not. I don't know, but yeah, regardless, you get my point. You know what I mean? I don't need to go on about it, because it's not a big deal right now. If we're still like this in, let's say, I don't know, if we're still at this like point in like 10 episodes and I feel like they still haven't kind of separated, then maybe I might have to say something. Although then I don't know how long the arcs are, because if we're still in this arc in 10 episodes time, then maybe, but I don't know. We'll see. Whenever we get away from the training camp and then we're on from there, I'll let you know anyway. But yeah. At first, anyway, I thought Imaizumi falling first was interesting, because that was what started me talking about them being so similar, and I wish there was a kind of shift between them, because I don't want them. I was expecting, like, if they were both going to do it, like Naruto gets off his bike and then he stumbles, and it's like, oh, but they're just the same. You know what I mean? But what is nice, and a nice little detail, is that it only happened to Imaizumi because the hindrance that he has is that he doesn't have gear shift. So when he needs to push on, he can't make it lighter on himself by shifting his gears. He needs to literally, like, use his body more, and he has to dance and get up and actually start pushing. So he's actually using his body more than what Naruto is. So it completely makes sense in that regard. So yeah. But anyway, yeah, we continued on. We basically entirely past that whole second day. And yeah, Kinjo said that this was when they were talking about the interview and whatnot. And that it was interesting that Kinjo said that we need, like, a unique person from each of their schools to do this, like, separate sort of interview thing. And as soon as he said it, I was like, well, it's clearly Onoda, right? It has to be Onoda. I'm interested. It is interesting that you would choose Naruto out of them. I mean, and then obviously Kinjo went on to say, because you like to stand out, right? And Naruto passed on it. And I asked if it was like a test, if Kinjo was testing him there or not. And then, obviously, through the other schools, we found out that no, that is actually like a separate interview with what they do. So I actually think it's more of a semi-test that Kinjo did with him. I think it was a case of, like, if he accepted it, he would have gone on and done that interview. But I think Kinjo was hoping that that's something that he was going to say. Because what takes precedent right now is doing this camp and stuff. Now remember, Kinjo's the captain. He's the one that's deciding whether people go get into high or not. And if they're not fully in, then maybe they're not cut out for it. So it makes sense. So yeah, and then we cut obviously to Midosuji, who it may have happened some episodes back, but there has been like a couple week gap since I watched the last sort of episode. So I can't like remember everything that went on in previous episodes and things. But so yeah, it may have been confirmed like in earlier episodes, but Imaizumi has some history with Midosuji, right? And that is the guy that he wanted. Because I thought it was primarily Hakone Academy that he was going after, but no, it seems that he has a problem, like a personal vendetta against one guy in particular, and that guy turns out to be Midosuji, which yeah, so he is he's just nuts. So yeah, I mean, when he was fucking going as well, like when he was riding, like it looked like nothing just phases him. So I can't wait, because there has to be something that like where he has to like push and you start seeing him sweat. I can't fucking wait for that bit. But yeah, so it's like Midosuji's sort of place within his own like bicycle racing club is weird, because he came in, he said, right, I want to be the ace, but then once he was given the ace position, the actual captain says, what do you like, you know, what kind of oh shit, I can't remember word for word. He basically asked like, what kind of strategy are you going to employ, like how are you going to do this? But isn't that the captain's job? That's not the ace's job, that's the captain's job, right? To sort all of that out. I mean, I mean, they still call that guy captain, but it seems like Midosuji just has everything. He's basically given free rein to say what he wants and do what he wants, because he's much better than anybody there. So it's like they don't want the captain and whatnot like allows them to do it because with him they can win, and therefore they will never win. You know what I mean? Like I just have a feeling it's like in sort of shows like this, it's like team spirit, you know what I mean? And they clearly don't have it, so that's never going to work. They're basically looking to one guy to propel them forward, and that just isn't going to happen, especially in a team-based sport. It's not going to happen. So I'm sure they'll eventually get that, and then it'll be a case of like Midosuji loses, and then he finds some kind of like ground to be, I don't know, like a better person and work with his team more in order to get further. I don't know, maybe something like that. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, he's fucking nuts. Like, he's even like, his whole personality sucks because he says refer to the other people as numbers. Not even, that's fucked up, man. Proper fucked up. And yeah, and then we got over to Hakone Academy. It's interesting as well. I think one thing that's going to really piss off Imaizumi is the fact that Midosuji doesn't even care about him. Midosuji wants to go straight after Hakone Academy instead. So, you know, that if it's ever that, like, if he ever gets like wind of that, like if they're in a race or whatever and Midosuji's not even paying him any attention and just focusing on Hakone or whatever, that'll piss him off. You know what I mean? So yeah. And then we obviously went over to Hakone Academy themselves, and Manami showed up at the end there after obviously, you know, just going out and fucking riding, just completely skipping school and just fucking riding his bike and through mountains and shit. But yeah, they give him the sort of the go ahead to go to the sports center where our boys are training at, right? Because interestingly enough, he wants them to go see Makishima because he's a climber, which yeah, that's interesting. It's going to be the thing that I can see coming from this essentially would be if Manami gets, because Manami doesn't know much like about Onoda really right now, right? Once he gets there and he realizes, oh shit, that's that kid that I met before, and it's like, oh shit, like, he's a climber as well. If he's like to pass that information on to his own school, you know what I mean? Because that's something that Makishima's been keeping secret, is like a, you know what I mean? And it's something that Kinjo himself and Todokoro, like, basically like, they didn't want them competing in the preliminaries so that they are a you know, so that it's a surprise when they come in, and it's, you know, it's sort of like their ace in the hole to play kind of thing. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see if that does come to pass. But yeah, that is all for this episode. So thank you everyone for watching. In the description below I have links to certain things. One of them is the Discord. If you want any information regarding my content, then you can get yourself over there. You can also come talk to me in the community as well. And Patreon. So over Patreon, if you do want to support me, that'd be very much appreciated. There's a bunch of different tiers and rewards depending on how much you want to support me with. So there's the early access tier for $5 a month. That gives you access to shows a week early. And you get 4 episodes of Hunter x Hunter every week as well. So if you're clamoring for more reactions from me from Hunter x Hunter, or you just want to get access to reactions a week early, that's where you want to go. $10 a month, that is the full length. That gives you access to my full length library. Everything I react to gets a full length. $15, that is the exclusive tier. That gives you access to a bonus show that I'm currently reacting to, which is 7 Deadly Sins. So if you want to see my reaction to 7 Deadly Sins, that's where you want to be. $50, that's the elite tier. Every time you pay $50, you get a choice of a show that you want me to react to, and I will react to it. It will go at the back of the list by about 7 shows. Might take me a while to get round to it, but I will do eventually. But if you don't want to wait that long and you want your show to be reacted to next, then you want to get God tier, which is $100. But that is all, so thank you everyone for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.